20% of all high schoolers have had sex before 13 years old.
And 20% of middle schoolers have already had sex as well.
Pretty shocking statistics. So we thought we'd do a whole episode about
Sex.
And how to talk to your teen, how to talk to your kids about sex. So the specialists say that you should start talking to your kids about sex at 2 years old. And I don't think they mean about sex in general. They mean about naming your body parts. They say that you're supposed to say your penis, your scrotum, your anus.
Can you wash your scrotum today?
Did you scrub up that anus? All right, good job. Oh, here's another good shocking statistic. 39% of high schoolers have not used a condom.
Yikes.
46% of high schoolers have had sex. More than likely, your kid, if you haven't already talked to them about sex, already knows.
They've heard from their peers.
Or they're doing it.
Or they're having it.
They're doing it. And you're being naive. Statistics show that when you talk to your kids about any really big topic, sex or drugs or anything, you're never supposed to look them in the eye. I think you're supposed to run out of the room with your bottle of wine and leave a note for them to read. And if they have questions, to text you.
Email you. And you'll get back to them when they're 36.
So eye contact is confrontational, and they're a lot less likely to be open with you and to tell you truthfully what's going on. If you have teenage girls, they'll pretty much come to you and tell you what they want to know more about, by telling you that their friend is having sex or that their friend is
Just asking for a friend.
Yeah, just asking for a friend. And sometimes it's not even that, but they're
just
actually
telling.
Yeah, they're telling because they actually want to open the conversation.
Sure.
When you are talking to them, you have to be really open-minded because otherwise they're not going to tell you anything. And if you're judgmental and you judge the friend story that you just heard, they're never going to tell you anything. You ride like this really funny fine line. Between 6 and 7, the researchers say that kids will start asking questions about sex sometimes. They'll come home from the schoolyard because what happens is their little friends have older brothers and sisters. Mm-hmm. So they're hearing about sex long before you want them to hear about sex, and they're going to hear their version of the sex and not yours. So when they come home and start asking those questions, to be honest with them based on their age and how much you think that they can accept. Like Kaya asked me about her period. When about 7, I think she was, because she saw that I had, tampons and pads and stuff, and she was like, "What are these for?" And I said, "Well, eventually, you're going to, bleed once a month." And she was like, "From where?" And she was like, "But is it like everywhere? Like you bleed like everywhere?" And I'm like, "Sort of. It's not like a CSI crime scene, no, but it can be sometimes feel that way."
It's your personal crime scene.
It's your own personal crime scene. Then she came home one day at like 8, and she asked me what a blowjob was.
Oh.
And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so not ready to take on this conversation." She's 8. So that's when I was like, okay, it's when, we know, hopefully we know, you waiting for me to...
We're waiting for you to know something. We don't know.
For me to know something.
We don't know.
And I don't want to have the conversation either.
Well, that just starts a whole nother conversation, because if you haven't had the first conversation
Right.
about the male body parts and their genitalia,
Right.
then you have to start there.
She was like, "I'm never gonna do that. Who does that? That's the most disgusting." Her favorite word growing up, pervert. Perverted thing ever. They're perverts. She's like, "Who does that?" And I was like, "Well, when married people do that." And she's like, "Well, just married people?" And I was like, "Well, sometimes when you're in a long relationship, not everybody gets married, but when you're in a really long relationship and you're like 45 years old, that's when a blowjob would happen, maybe for the first time."
So just your grandparents. Only Grandma and Papa do that.
Because they've earned it. Nothing else is working. So. Oh. Why? Because parenting. I'm fried. I got no more for today. But make sure you click the subscribe button, because I'll have more content for you later. Night.